Close your eyes and imagine this. You're standing in the heart of magnificent Rome, surrounded by shimmering marble columns and aristocrats in pristine white togas, calmly debating philosophy. Sounds luxurious, right? Now, open your eyes and hold your breath. Because what's waiting for you isn't the scent of rosewater. It's a pungent, suffocating stench of ammonia and rotting waste engulfing the streets. Behind the golden glow of history's greatest empire lie stinky secrets that Hollywood has never dared to tell you. If you've got a strong stomach and a hunger for the naked truth, hit that subscribe button now and join me as we peel back the layers of the Roman elite's most disgusting hidden lives. Let's start by forgetting our modern, lavender-scented laundromats. Stepping into a phaloniki, a Roman laundry, the first thing that hits you is a stench of ammonia so sharp it'll make your head spin. Here, the high-end togas of the aristocracy weren't treated with gentle soaps. Instead, they were soaked in massive wooden vats filled to the brim with fermented human urine. Imagine this. The laundry workers, known as phallones, spent their entire day standing knee-deep in that murky yellow liquid. They weren't just washing, they were dancing. Using their body weight, they jumped up and down, stomping the clothes against the bottom of the vats. This rhythmic trampling was the only way to let the ammonia break down the toughest layers of grease and sweat. It was back-breaking, foul-smelling labor. Yet it was the backbone of the high-fashion industry of that era. But if you thought using pee for laundry was the peak of disgust, brace yourself for this. The Roman elite used it for oral hygiene. Inside those opulent palaces, a sparkling white smile was the ultimate status symbol of power and wealth. And the most luxurious toothpaste of the time? Nothing other than concentrated urine. It was widely believed that urine from the Lusitania region, which is modern-day Portugal, was the business class of waste. It contained extremely high levels of ammonia, making it more effective at whitening tooth enamel than anything else on Earth. Imagine a noble lady or a powerful general waking up every morning to take a swig of imported urine, swishing it thoroughly to achieve a radiant smile before stepping out into the public square. This is no joke. It was a harsh, pungent beauty standard of the Roman Empire. The public obsession with urine grew so massive that it caught the eye of the rulers. When the national treasury was depleted after civil wars, Emperor Vespasian made a decision that went down in history. He taxed urine. He placed public urinals at every corner of Rome and forced laundry owners to pay a fee to collect this precious raw material. When his son, Titus, expressed disgust at the revenue generated from waste, Vespasian took a gold coin from the collection, held it up to his son's nose, and asked, "Does it smell?" When Titus shook his head, the emperor uttered the immortal phrase, "Pecunia non ole." Money does not smell. That statement didn't just confirm the brutal pragmatism of the Romans, it showed how vital urine was to their economy. From public toilets to glittering gold coins, the line between disgust and wealth had never been thinner. Saying goodbye to the overwhelming ammonia stench of the laundries, let's step through the gates of Rome's most dazzling mansions. Here, banquets that last from sunset to dawn are not merely about filling stomachs. They are a stage for the ultimate display of power. As the music of the lyre begins to play, Slaves dressed in fine silks bring out massive, solid silver platters. But what lies on top of them would leave any modern guest frozen in horror. The star of the feast is the dormouse, a rodent that the aristocracy was absolutely obsessed with. These weren't your average gutter-running rats. They were meticulously raised in specialized terracotta jars called glirarium. In the darkness of these jars, they were stuffed with chestnuts, walnuts, and fruits until their bodies became plump and round as a ball. Once they reached the ideal level of fattiness, they were deep-fried in honey, sprinkled with fragrant poppy seeds, or stuffed with roasted pork. This combination of honey's sweetness and the rich fat of the rodent was considered a supreme delicacy by the elite. To prove that nothing is impossible to buy, wealthy hosts constantly sought out the most bizarre ingredients. On the banquet table, you would find dishes of sautéed flamingo tongues, wild rooster combs, or even roasted pig wombs and testicles. They believed that eating these rare parts not only boosted health, but also demonstrated the host's power to conquer the wild natural world. At this point, luxury was no longer about taste. It was about a haunting, one-of-a-kind uniqueness. The soul of every Roman dish was garum. Imagine a sauce made from fish guts, blood, and salt, piled into massive vats and left to ferment under the scorching Mediterranean sun for months. This process of decomposition created a liquid with a stench so overpowering that garum factories were often banished far from residential areas. Yet the Romans worshipped it like liquid gold. They drizzled garum over everything, from roasted meats and fried fish to fruit and sweets, creating a chaotic explosion of salty, sweet, and that unmistakable scent of decay. But the true horror wasn't just in what they ate, but in how they enjoyed it. To sample dozens of bizarre dishes in a single night, the aristocracy came up with a solution as brutal as it was effective: vomit to keep eating. Between courses, they would retreat to a private area, using a delicate feather to tickle their throats and purge everything they had just consumed. Then, with a straight face, they would return to the banquet to continue their conquest of fresh plates of dormice and garum. It was a cycle of vanity, where indulgence surpassed all boundaries of morality and basic hygiene. Inside a lavish banquet, plates of honeyed dormice and flamingo tongues continue to be served without end. But the human stomach has its limits. To ensure they didn't miss a single flavor, the Roman aristocracy took indulgence to a morbid level. They would quietly slip away from the feast and head to a private area. There, instead of resting, they used a slender feather to gently tickle the back of their throats, triggering the gag reflex. All the delicacies they had just consumed were expelled in an instant. After a few sips of mouthwash, they calmly returned to the table with an empty stomach, ready for round two as if nothing had happened. For them, eating wasn't about nourishment. It was about satisfying the thrill of tasting every bizarre thing the world had to offer. The name vomitorium is often misunderstood as a room specifically for vomiting, but in Roman architecture, these were actually wide exit passages that allowed crowds to leave arenas quickly. However, in the debauched party culture of the elite, the concept of vomiting to keep eating became a symbol of staggering waste. Some historians even record that at the banquets of the ultra-rich, slaves had to stand by with silver bowls so their masters could empty their stomachs right on the spot. Their greed transformed eating from a survival need into an endless cycle of binging and purging, regardless of how disgusting the process was. Leaving the banquet table, let's visit the most private yet public of places: the Roman latrine. Unlike the privacy we expect today, ancient toilets were long rows of marble benches with circular holes side by side, where aristocrats could relieve themselves while discussing politics or gossiping. There were no stalls, no partitions, and zero embarrassment. Beneath their feet, a continuous stream of water flowed to wash away waste, a remarkable engineering feat. Yet that civilization came to a screeching halt when it came to toilet paper. Back then, toilet paper didn't exist, and the Romans had an invention that would make anyone shudder: the xylospongium. The xylospongium was essentially a wooden stick with a natural Mediterranean sea sponge attached to the end. Once the job was done, instead of being thrown away, everyone, from high-ranking officials to commoners, shared that same sponge stick for cleaning. After each use, the stick was dipped into a bucket of salt water or vinegar, sitting at their feet for a superficial rinse, then left for the next person to use. Just imagine, dozens, even hundreds of people sharing a single sponge throughout the entire day. This was the shortest path for spreading parasites and infectious diseases, turning those magnificent marble toilets into deadly traps hidden beneath a layer of luxury. As we close this journey back through time, we find ourselves standing in the middle of a ridiculous paradox: an empire that built eternal monuments and laws that form the bedrock of human civilization, yet brushed their teeth with urine and shared a communal sponge in the bathroom. You might be shuddering, you might be feeling nauseous, but stop for a moment to reflect. What we call disgusting today was actually the peak of technology and the most optimal solution our ancestors had at the time. Personally, I always wonder, where does true luxury actually lie? Is it in the pristine white togas washed in ammonia, or in the human arrogance of intentionally ignoring the raw, dark sides of life? History is not just about glorious victories on horseback. It is also found in the terracotta jars used to raise dormice and the vats of fish rotting under the Mediterranean sun. That is the truest breath, the truest scent of a lost era. Who knows? 1,000 years from now, our descendants might look at our modern habits, plastic straws, chemicals in our cosmetics, or the way we are glued to our phone screens, and gasp in shock, just as we did with the Romans. Standards of cleanliness and civilization are always shifting. Only human curiosity and the hunger to unmask the truth remain constant. As for you, if you had to choose between brushing your teeth with urine for a radiant smile or eating a plump dormouse dipped in honey, which would you pick? Let me know in the comments.